It's time for another Friday update on the waking nightmare of the Canadian housing market. I got 4 stories for you this week, and they're all pretty good ones. First off, the Canadian home price stats for August were just released this morning, and it looks like prices might be continuing to slump. Here's a chart of the home price index from 2010 up to the present. But don't worry, because many people in my comments have assured me that there's no bubble. It's all based on supply and demand, and this is perfectly normal, even healthy behavior for the market, so stop saying that there's a bubble. You certainly wouldn't want to take this chart and put it next to the old anatomy of a bubble chart and comment about how shockingly similar the two look. Don't do that! That would be ridiculous! Next, on the overall economy, we've got data from Statistics Canada and Desjardins Economic Studies, and we've now seen a decline in real GDP per capita for 4 consecutive quarters. Apparently, the increases in overall GDP we've seen over the past year are pretty much driven entirely by population growth, not economic development. Businesses have been soaking up all that cheap labor, which has been pushing overall GDP up even as labor productivity has fallen. Keep in mind that a recession is typically defined as 2 consecutive quarters of decline in real GDP, so basically the average Canadian has been experiencing the economic effects of a prolonged recession over the past year, but that hasn't been experienced by the people at the top who hold all the capital, and isn't that what's really important? Next, some interesting news from Canada Guarantee, one of Canada's largest private mortgage insurers, on the subject of underwater mortgages. An underwater mortgage being when a borrower owes more money on their mortgage than their home is currently worth. In the second quarter of 2022, they had about $200 million worth of underwater mortgages in their insured portfolio. 6 months later, in the fourth quarter of 2022, that had risen to $4 billion. Then, in the first quarter of 2023, they just stopped reporting that stat and lumped it in with the next bracket. It's probably fine, you guys. Finally, yesterday the Liberals announced some new measures on affordable housing, the most notable of which was waiving the GST on new construction of purpose-built rental housing. Better than nothing! It's worth noting that this policy was basically included in their 2015 election platform and could have been done 8 years ago with the stroke of a pen, but in 2017 they decided not to do it instead and then left it until now when it's obviously too late. They also suggested that they're going to meet with grocery stores and ask them politely to stop gouging us so much. That should be almost as effective as the time that they took some of our money and then gave it back to us so that we could give it to the grocery corporations. Pretty good! That's all for today's update, so thanks for watching and enjoy your weekend.